Bowden Francis has been the best pitcher in baseball over his past 5 starts, and he is just getting better and better. After a rough start to his season, he has firmly entrenched himself in a rotation spot for the Toronto Blue Jays. And even though the playoffs aren't a real possibility for them, it's very nice to see him acclimating himself and carving out his place for 2025 for this team. So we'll break down his dominance and much more on this episode of 3 Up, 3 Down. Welcome in, everybody, to 3 Up, 3 Down. Now, I usually don't get into the video right away, and today I won't. I want to talk about Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Gaudreau, 2 young men who were lost overnight, and I just want to offer my sincerest condolences before we get into the video and talk about the Toronto Blue Jays. It just shows you how precious life is, and Johnny and Matthew were 2 very big members of the hockey community. Johnny, one of the star players in the National Hockey League. They were both killed by a drunk driver overnight, the day before their sister's wedding. Now, it just keeps getting more and more tragic as the details get revealed. And again, I want to offer my deepest condolences to the Gaudreau family. And it's a reminder to never drink and drive, to always keep the safety of yourself and others in mind before making those types of decisions. Now, I never want to have to talk about these things. I wish they would never happen, but unfortunately it happens far too often, and Johnny and Matthew are not the only ones who have been victims of this. It happens a lot more often than we think, but it just doesn't get brought to the limelight because it's not always superstar athletes that are on the receiving end of this. So again, my deepest condolences and thoughts and prayers with Matthew and Johnny Gaudreau and the rest of their family, and to their sister as well, to the hockey community, to everybody involved. This is a senseless tragedy, and I hope that it never happens again. And I hope that we can all learn from this and hold our loved ones just that much tighter today, because it shows how precious life can truly be. And it also shows that nothing is guaranteed. Tomorrow isn't a given. So make the most of your time on Earth and make sure to love everyone and keep the safety of everyone in mind before making these decisions. But we'll get into the video now. Again, my deepest condolences to the Gaudreau family, to everybody involved, and I hope that they can find peace in this time. That's all that we can say. You know, there's nothing that we can do to fix this. There's nothing that we can say to bring them back. But what we can do is offer our thoughts and prayers and hope that they can get through this as a unit and start to rebuild their lives back up again. But again, gone way too soon. Matthew and Johnny Gaudreau, rest in peace to both of them. It's going to be really hard to focus for this episode, so it might be a little bit shorter than some other ones. First and foremost, I wanted to get my thoughts on the Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau situations, because I think that trumps anything that happened in the world of baseball last night. And even though I love baseball, I'm a hockey fan as well, and just a sports fan in general. And anytime I see a tragedy like that, it just hits really close to home. So, again, my deepest condolences to the Gaudreau family. But let's get into it here. Let's talk a little bit of Bowden Francis before we wrap up. He's been one of the best pitchers in baseball over the past couple of weeks here. And Bowden Francis of the Blue Jays has a whip of 0.31 over his last 4 starts. That's the lowest whip by any MLB pitcher over any 4-start span in the modern era. Minimum 20 innings pitched. Now, he has constantly been getting better ever since getting recalled. Had a very tough start to his season, but he has found his groove now, and a big reason for that is because of his splitter. This might be the simplest way of explaining Bowden Francis right now. There are only a handful of guys who know how to command a splitter, and right now he's one of them. He definitely is one of the guys that has a lethal splitter in Major League Baseball, and it wasn't really clicking for him at the start of the season, but he has found his groove, and he is proving to the Blue Jays why he needs to be a key part of this team going into 2025. Will he be? I suspect that yes, because there aren't too many options in the rotation that the Blue Jays can lean on. But he has to show consistency, and he doesn't have to be this dominant over the course of a full season. I mean, no one ever has been. So it's going to be tough for him because he set the bar really high now in his past 4 starts. But he has to find a way to be a consistent, I'd say low 4s ERA guy, high 3s as well. Like, he's got to be in that range, high 3s to low 4s, and be able to give the Blue Jays some innings and some length out of that 5th starter spot. And that's where I presume he will be to start next season, because Alek Manoah is going to be out with injury. They traded Yusei Kikuchi at the deadline. There just isn't much in the rotation going into next season. Obviously, you got the big 3 of Chris Bassett, Jose Barrios, Kevin Gausman. But after that, where is the rest of that production going to come from? And let's take a look at some more of his stats here. Bowden Francis has pitched 29 innings in his last 4 starts and allowed only 10 base runners. No MLB pitcher has ever done that before. It's completely ridiculous. And yeah, it sounds absolutely ridiculous to even begin to imagine that that's possible. Like, Bowden Francis is one of the best pitchers in baseball right now, and I know it's a very short stretch and we got to see it over the course of a full 162, and I don't know if you'll ever be able to replicate these kind of numbers again. But Toronto Blue Jays pitcher Bowden Francis, insane last 4 starts. 4-0, .62 ERA, 29 innings, 6 hits, 2 runs, 32 strikeouts. So he's limiting the base runners, only 4 walks in those 29 innings, and 6 hits given up. It is completely ridiculous. There's no other way to put it, and shout out to Bob Nightingale for that tweet over there. But yes, Bowden Francis has been one of the best arms in the sport lately, and he is proving to the Blue Jays why he needs to be one of their guys going forward. Now, he's not a young guy by any stretch. He's not he's no longer a prospect. He's graduated from that, and the Blue Jays got him in a trade for Rowdy Tellez. Like, they traded away Rowdy Tellez to the Milwaukee Brewers for Bowden Francis and Trevor Richards, who also provided some really good innings over the years for them. So there's definitely that's one of the trades that Ross Atkins is going to be looking back upon and saying, yeah, I did well here. And maybe Blue Jay fans aren't so keen to give Ross Atkins any praise, but that was one of his best trades that he's made in his Blue Jays tenure. So Bowden Francis has really proven that he belongs in the major leagues after a very rough start to a season. And it's nice to see. As a Blue Jay fan, you want to try to find some silver linings from now until the end of the year. And Bowden Francis, his last 4 starts, probably the biggest silver lining of all, maybe apart from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. figuring it out and becoming one of the best hitters in baseball again. But yeah, there hasn't been much to ride home about if you're a Blue Jays fan, but Bowden Francis has been one of the big storylines for them over the past month or so. But that'll wrap it up for this episode of 3 Up, 3 Down. Tried to get through it. I went long enough, I think. I appreciate all your guys' support. I really do. But again, this video is all about Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau and their untimely deaths. Just awful. They were killed by a selfish individual who decided to drive drunk, and they had to pay the ultimate price. Not the drunk driver. Matthew and Johnny Gaudreau had to pay the ultimate price for his selfish, stupid mistake. Now they'll never get to go home again. They'll never get to see their sister's wedding. They'll never get to watch their kids grow up and be around their parents. All of those luxuries in life that we take for granted have been stripped away from Matthew and Johnny Gaudreau. And again, this is me imploring you to not drink and drive, to make smart decisions, to take a cab, to call a friend, to call your parents, or try to get out of a situation that you don't want to be in, okay? So it's a senseless tragedy. It happened. But now we have to use this as a teaching moment and to take this and say that We are not going to make these decisions that could put others at risk. And not only yourself, okay? So you're putting yourself at risk, but you're putting others at risk as well. And this tragedy has affected the lives of many people now. And it has affected the life of the driver, but again, the ones involved in the tragedy have to pay the ultimate price, and it just isn't fair. So we have to make smarter decisions. We have to be better people and make sure that this is not a common reoccurrence, even though it happens far too often. But that'll wrap it up. Thanks again for making it this far, and my condolences to the Gaudreau family.